Northern Ireland and Scotland, after a largely dry night, just a few coastal showers around, it should be a largely fine start to the day. There will be quite a bit of cloud around, but across eastern parts to the lee of high ground, with the winds coming in from the west-southwest, there should be some breaks. And those breaks are going to continue through the day tomorrow. So some sunshine for eastern parts in particular, but across more central areas of the UK staying cloudy, that front gradually making its way southwards, and more drizzly rain to come as well. The best chance of any sunshine will be towards the south-southwest of England. Even here, though, the cloud building through the afternoon. Temperatures a little bit on the mild side, generally getting into double figures for most of us. As we look ahead to Wednesday, and it's a largely dry day for many of us, a front tries to bring some wetter, windier weather to the far northwest of the UK, but doesn't bring a huge amount. Otherwise, we're going to see increasing amounts of sunshine from the northwest, but generally staying cloudy towards the southeast, and quite a bit more cloud to come as we go through the end of the week, though looking largely dry. Bye-bye.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Don't miss your chance to win our biggest cash prize ever, an incredible £50,000. That's tax-free cash to spend on anything you like this year. What would you spend it on? £50,000 could buy those treats you've always dreamed of having. And just one entry into the Great British Giveaway really could make £50,000 cash all yours. For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Britain's Newsroom, weekday mornings from 9:30.
Mr. Motivator, he joins us now. Mr. Motivator, a very happy new year to you. Thank you so much for joining us on the show. There you are, bright and early. So how are things? How can we all kick ourselves into shape?
By the end of January, most people have thrown their New Year's resolution out the window. I think what's important is that we make a change for life, and we set ourselves small goals. And as we achieve those goals, then we reward ourselves. And in other words, you want to run 10K, you don't immediately get up and go run 10K, do you? You run between 2 lampposts and walk between 20. If you're not into running, don't choose running. If you're into dancing, that's great. If you're into any kind of movement, that is the way to keep yourself active, healthy, and also maintain your independence.
So, Derek, is the point that you keep it manageable and small enough that it's achievable?
Why don't we just find 4 exercises that you do for 1 minute each exercise, and you do that 4 times a day? Achievable, isn't it? That's only 4 minutes of exercise. And I guarantee at the end of the day, you'd have done 12 minutes, which is like your daily dozen. So there's your goal. I want to do a daily dozen of exercise lasting a minute each. Right? And the first thing you could be doing is getting up from your chair, right? The moment you stand up, you incorporate so many muscles in your legs, right, that you're going to feel good, yes? So,
right, go on then. Get up off your chair, Adam. Show me how it's done.
Easy, come on.
Easy, yeah. Look at that.
No hand. The next thing I want you to do is to reach up real high. And if you bring it down, up
I'll
and
do
down.
that one.
Yeah.
For a minute, palms facing.
Oh, for a minute?
You're not flying a minute.
There we go.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, it's 11 o'clock, which means it's time for tomorrow's newspapers tonight. Join us over the next hour to find out what is under Reform's kilt. Who is coming for Owen Jones? And what commodity are we running very low on? I'm Josh Howie, and tonight I've got comedians Simon Evans and Cressida Wetton taking you through Tuesday's top stories. This is Headliners. But before tomorrow's news, let's go to tonight's headlines with Katie Bowen.
Josh, thank you and good evening. These are your latest headlines from the GB newsroom. Conservative Party leader Kemi Badenoch said that state bodies have failed the victims of the grooming gang scandal, adding that the problem is ongoing. Speaking exclusively to GB News' national reporter Charlie Peters, Mrs Badenoch said that she doesn't care if people say she's jumping on a far-right bandwagon. She added that the Conservative Party will do everything to make sure that victims get justice. The Conservative leader went on to say she had identified cultural issues surrounding grooming gangs, saying perpetrators often come from a poor peasant background.
Where do these abusers come from? There's a lot of misinformation, there's a lot of generalization. Many innocent people end up being grouped in with them. But if you look at it, there is a systematic pattern of behavior, not even just from one country, but from sub-communities within those countries, people with a particular background, particular class background, work background.
What background is that?
You know, people very, very poor sort of peasant background, very, very rural, almost cut off from even the home origin countries that they might have been in.
Elsewhere, Sir Keir Starmer says he's completely confident in his team, with his spokesman saying today that Rachel Reeves will stay on as Chancellor until the next general election, following turmoil in the markets. The PM's official spokesman added that Sir Keir Starmer has full confidence in Rachel Reeves and he will be working with her for the whole of the Parliament. In the past week, there's been a drop in the pound and an increase in borrowing costs, with Downing Street saying nothing is off the table as government departments consider where to cut spending. Ms Reeves has been in China, bolstering ties with the nation, with Senior Cabinet Minister Pat McFadden saying today that it was in the national interest. Shadow Business Secretary Andrew Griffith said that the Chancellor failed to make some vital decisions in her budget. Joe Biden has delivered a foreign policy speech from the White House this evening, saying a Gaza ceasefire and hostage deal is on the brink of fruition. The outgoing US president said the deal would also include a surge of aid to Palestinians in what was his final foreign policy address. A round of Gaza ceasefire talks will be held in Doha tomorrow morning to finalise the remaining details of the deal. Officials in Los Angeles said at a press conference today that severe fire weather conditions will continue until Wednesday. LA Mayor Karen Bass said that close to hurricane-force winds have been predicted. At least 24 people have been killed and thousands evacuated as fires rage on in California. 23 people, all adults, remain missing, and more than 92,000 people are currently under evacuation orders, officials have said. LA County Sheriff Robert Luna also added that at least 34 people have been arrested. Meanwhile, US President-elect Donald Trump has called politicians in California incompetent over their handling of the fires. Those are the latest GB News headlines. Now it's time for Headliners.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Hi everyone, welcome to Headliners, your first look at tomorrow's top stories with three comedians. But before we dive in, we're going to have a quick look at what Simon and Cressida will have to work with on Tuesday's front pages. First up, the Daily Telegraph. PM throws Reeves' future into doubt. This is the story of the day. Will she survive? We will find out. Independent. Israel and Gaza on brink of peace. I hope so, obviously. That would be amazing. Let the hostages go. The Guardian. Starmer backs Reeves and warns of ruthless public spending cuts. So I guess The Guardian has the inside dope on that. She's safe for now. The Times. PM says Reeves will stay till next election as reform soars in the polls. Well, OK, if you believe the Times, then she's safe again. And finally, we have the Daily Star. Should we be popping out for another lettuce? With a very unflattering picture of Rachel Reeves there. And I really think the Liz Truss one was much more attractive. Anyway, there we go. So those are all the papers. We're going to have a proper look at them now. Simon, welcome to Headliners.
Thank you very much.
Young
Josh.
buck on the circuit.
Yeah, it's strange sitting here without something in my ear telling me what to say.
I know, this is it. You're free.
Unnerving, yeah. Yes, I feel like I could just roam off the path and over a cliff.
Well, that's exactly what the show is.
Simon Evans Unleashed, I like it.
This is exactly what it is. Well, let's unleash on the first newspaper. We've got the Daily Telegraph.
Yes, indeed. The Daily Telegraph, as you mentioned, the lead is the Rachel Reeves, Rachel from Accounts. Her future is in doubt. And as you indicated, as you went through the papers, different papers have a slightly different take. But the Telegraph seems to have picked up on what sounds like a division between Starmer's own rhetoric. He twice refused, like Peter, before the cock crow, he twice betrayed...
I get that reference.
Thank you, yes. The irony. But he was unwilling to say that she would still be Chancellor at the next election. Well, I think, to be honest, 4.5 years away, that would be quite a hostage to fortune.
Well, the problem is we don't know if he'll be here in 4.5 years, so to be fair to him, he can't make that kind of promise.
You know who is going to be here?
It's in the hands of Elon Musk at this point, isn't it?
Lammy's going to be here. He's had a promise to the very end.
Oh, right, OK.
He's had the promise here. So this is what they seem to be suggesting. There's obviously the other story here, new pressure for grooming probe after MPs switch sides.
I just want to mention, though, it is interesting, they've got two people lined up for Reeves' job, and one of them is Pat McFadden, who I don't know a great deal about. He's currently the Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster, but he did serve in a relevant department under Gordon Brown's cabinet. So
okay.
I kind of think he might well have the job, actually.
Well, it's him or Wes, is it?
It's Wes Streeting.
Wes Streeting, though.
Glass ceiling,
we didn't want Rachel from Accounts. Wes Streeting from doing some charity work. Yeah. I'm not sure that's any
Someone with expertise would be good and connected to Gordon Brown.
This photo of Rachel Reeves. That's a picture of her listening to Pedro Sanchez, the Spanish Prime Minister, because...
Oh, I thought you were talking about on Audible or something.
No, it looks like she's just heard his ideas. He's going to charge Britain's potentially 100% tax for properties in Spain, and she's going, oh, that's a great idea. I could do that.
Anybody, that's a great idea. So they've had a pretty sweet deal, the expats over there. Now they've got a bit of a housing crisis, and I've never heard of this before. 100% tax. I mean, you work in Hull, then it's going to double it to like 60 quid or
It's hard
something.
to read the tiny print on the Telegraph, but am I to understand that this is essentially stamp duty at 100%, or is it a wealth tax?
I think it's the stamp duty.
OK, single one-time purchase, so they double the price.
For people outside the EU.
This is what Cornwall's been trying to introduce for some time as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
To stop people like you and I having second homes in Cornwall.
Mate, I don't even have one home. I'll take the second home.
Now, going back to the story you tried to draw me onto earlier, the new pressure for grooming probe after MP switch sides, and this is Sarah Champion, of course, who has been a thorn in the side of the Labour administration, even when they were in the shadow cabinet. She was somebody who has blown various whistles over the years. She's the MP for Rotherham. She's obviously extraordinarily involved in what is arguably the one or two top grooming hotspots, as they put it, rather. Tactlessly, but and she has now said that she thinks a national inquiry would be appropriate, and so that's perhaps put things back into play. Obviously, you know, this has all come out of nowhere just due to the strange confluence of...
social media.
Fraser Nelson writing a pro-multiculturalism...
Also Charlie on...
on GBNews keeping the pot boiling, and I don't think anyone was like planning for it.
I think he filled the pot, didn't he?
Yes.
It's interesting to me that she's from Rotherham, because I didn't know... I don't know whether that means that she's more likely to want the inquiry or less.
Well, I think she certainly is willing to go there, as they say. She's not somebody who's going to be easily shut up or intimidated by fears of political correctness or community tensions and so on. And it's interesting. I mean, I think a lot of us have been scrabbling to do the backstory and to do the reading since this has re-emerged as a national conversation. And I personally felt it had never been dealt with, and I'm not at all surprised to see that, you know, the attempts to heal over the suppurating wound have failed. But it is interesting that a lot of talk has been, we've had a national inquiry, we don't need another one. We did not have a national inquiry. They had an inquiry that was triggered by allegations of paedophile rings within, like, the highest ranks of the British establishment, the various fantasists and so on who accuse Leon Britton.
The gaslighting continues, and it's incredibly frustrating because they really are treating everybody like mugs to pretend. And you see people online as well going, "Oh, there's been it's just like there hasn't been, and just stop it now." Anyway, Cresta, Independent. This is big news, hopefully.
Israel and Gaza on brink of peace. It's fantastic news, although it's a shame it didn't happen earlier.
Yeah.
It's mentioned on the Telegraph as well, where they talk about the hostages needing to be freed. That's not a new idea, is it? The only thing that's changed is that Trump is going to be the president. It sort of reminds me of when my brother and I were kids and we'd be fighting and Mum would say, just you wait till your dad gets home, and you start behaving around about that time.
Well, this is it.
Daddy's home is the expression that Tucker Carlson used, I think, to describe Trump.
Well, this is it, and Trump has been very clear about this. Trump basically said, if the hostages are not freed by the time that he gets into power, all hell is going to pay. So,
but there is also a sense that Biden, I think, would like this to happen in the dying embers of his presidency as well. Possibly, I don't know. There is always that sense that people are playing. I don't know, people saying playing politics, but it was playing politics in the first place, wasn't it? I suppose. Really.
I mean, it's incredible that these people have still. There's 33 people supposedly still alive who've just had a year and a half of a hell that I don't think people can really imagine in dungeons. And
I would assume the calculation, it was so hard to know what they could possibly think they were going to achieve with it, that I have to assume that they hoped that they would trigger a response from Israel which would shock the world with its, its ruthlessness, and that would tilt things in their direction. That the Hamas leadership.
Well, I think they wanted Iran was going to come in, and all the other proxies, Hezbollah and whatnot. And
as we said, the last 6 months have gone pretty much Israel's way in terms of military objectives, and I don't know whether that's brought Gaza back to the table or not.
Well, I think Trump is obviously the deciding factor here, but we'll see. Hopefully, we can.
And can we just mention Harry and Meghan branded disaster tourists, because that's quite enjoyable, isn't it? By a fairly minor star, it has to be said. I had to track it down who it was. I'd never heard of it, but still, Hollywood star from a couple of sitcoms. But still, they were going around and sort of hugging people.
Oh, really?
Necessarily, and their foundation.
Material for the next sitcom. That's a Netflix thing. So you've got The Guardian, Simon?
Yes. Well, we've mentioned Starmer backing Reeves, and we'll see whether or not how that plays out. A picture of Andy Murray, who has become Djokovic's coach.
Wow.
That's quite interesting, isn't it? I don't quite understand the world of high-performance tennis, but that's quite odd, given that Djokovic clearly beat him more often than not.
Yeah, but you learn sometimes from the people lesser than you, like us switching roles.
Well, clearly the companionship. Anyway, he got through. They lost his first set, which must have been slightly uncomfortable, but they made it through to the end. And this is very Guardian and has to be taken with a pinch of everlasting salt, but £1.6 trillion cost of forever chemicals. This is the clean-up of over 10,000 human-made substances, which I imagine are mostly packaging and so on.
I think it's more than that. I think it goes down to, like, sort of molecular level, where it's in our bodies now. We're made up. We're all about 10% plastic.
Absolutely. It's in your gonads, I believe, and in your brain.
In the Daily Star every fortnight.
Absolutely.
Large part of their output. Well, it's only 1.6 billion, so let's get on with it. I mean, while we're all eating...
Trillion,
excuse me.
This is across Europe and over 10 years, but still, it's a lot of money. I mean, I have to be... I'm not on board with all of the Guardian's eco-handling, but this sort of stuff does worry me, to be honest. I mean, when I just see what we get through as a single household...
Oh, yeah, don't worry, Simon, it's far too late. There's nothing can be done. Relax.
Your generation's totally fine.
My generation are using pregnancy apps rather than the pill.
Yes.
Pregnancy risk as apps replace the pill study. I think women... So these are apps where you put in your dates and it tells you if it thinks you're going to get pregnant
it's
or not.
It's what the Roman Catholic Church used to call the rhythm method.
That's right,
so
exactly.
I read into this. There's something women have called a menstrual cycle. Is that right?
Josh Harry, the new man.
Which is what they used to ride away from their husbands. Well,
it's interesting, isn't it? While we're having sort of post-COVID, people aren't trusting medicine. It's kind of... We hear a lot about the pill and all its damaging effects. So people are doing this. And the other good thing about this is you can keep a record of when you're going to be most creative. Let's put it that way.
Fertile or whatever. Okay, cool. I'm just avoiding making many jokes, Cresta, because I don't want to annoy you.
Sure you
I
are.
will just say, from my experience, and perhaps I'm not the best person to say this, but I think possibly men and indeed perhaps some women underestimate the degree to which the pill does disrupt some women's health, mental health, and their emotional stability and so on. It's not a cost-free...
No, men have to pay the price, absolutely. I agree with you.
But also just the natural cycle anyway. Keep a record. Have it on the fridge at home so everyone knows. Not
absolutely.
today.
Oh, I'm
Don't
going away
ask.
I've got some gigs out of town. And then we've got the Times here, Cresta. Now, I think this is a huge story. We'll probably be covering this through the week. It's been sticking around for a while. Labour law threatens customers' free speech. Have you seen stuff
No, I
about this?
haven't. Pubs could ban customers from speaking about contentious matters. Ah, right, so this is the don't be telling...
Anti-banter bill.
Don't go to the pub with Lewis.
Yeah.
Would be the first. Don't listen to voice messages from Bruce Devlin in public without headphones.
okay.
That's what this means. Yeah, terrible.
But it's interesting they're focusing on this now. We've heard about it for some time. The idea is that people who are working in pubs, if me and you are there and we're chatting about trans stuff, as we do all the time...
The staff need to be protected from us.
That sort of thing.
Yeah, then they can they'd be able to sue the pub for hearing this horrible thing that there might be too...
I wrote a piece for Spiked online about this.
Humble brag.
About 6 months ago, Starmer's War on Pubs. It's all part of the War on Pubs series of articles. But yeah, I think it's extraordinarily dangerous because pubs tend to be, employers of a small number of people. They don't have the sort of human resources department that would enable them to cope with this kind of nonsense.
Yeah,
I've worked in lots of small pubs, and this is just ridiculous. I mean, that's what pubs are for, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, especially after a couple.
Yeah, well, that is the front page's squeeze of all their goodness. Come back to find out why Nigel Farage has a lot of deep-fried food in his future, and what does Vance disagree with Trump about? This is Headliners, only on GB News.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Figures released by the National Child Measurement Programme in 2024 found that almost 1 in 10 children was obese in the first year of school. Children living in deprived areas are twice as likely to be overweight as those in more affluent parts. Organisations like the Prepped Foundation are educating youngsters about healthy eating by giving them the skills to create balanced meals. TV chef James Golding has joined the foundation as the head of food education, and he joins me now to talk about the work. James, lovely to see you here.
Good to see you too. So Prepped used to be Table Talk Foundation, and it's now obviously Prep for Life, Prep for Knowledge. It's basically a charity to encourage kids to have a better understanding of food, but at the same time enjoy cooking and hopefully make better food choices in their life, as well as perhaps share the information we give them with their families.
Do you see them developing an understanding of the difference between healthy and unhealthy food?
Yes, I think that kids tend to sort of be taught a lot of this in school, but being able to actually ask questions to a chef and be able to cook with produce which they know is one, that is going to be tasty because they've tasted it, but two, open their eyes to food that they may not have tried before. I think that I think a lot of kids say they don't want to try stuff because they don't like the way it looks, but the way that we produce our sessions, we encourage the kids to try, and I think it really does open their eyes. It's very easy, I think, currently to be able to make easier choices, say fast food choices or that type of thing, and it's obviously giving people the ability to make the right choices, but also the skills to be able to do it. So I think it's something that needs to be addressed and something that really needs to be pushed, and that's what we're doing as a charity.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners, and kicking things off with Tuesday's Time, Simon, and at least this rapist isn't pretending he's a woman.
No, that's true. This is the Times, and the story is that a rapist can't be deported because he's bisexual, judges rule. The offender faces a well-founded fear of prosecution, apparently, if he were returned to Jamaica, which he came here from, I think, in his late teens.
Yeah, 18.
When he was 18, yeah. So the story is he served a sentence for certainly a very unpleasant crime. He raped a sleeping woman. It's slightly difficult to determine whether there was any coercion or physical coercion, whether she woke up at any point. He apparently presented a defence, which is that he was not aware that it was an offence to have sex with a sleeping woman. Now, we have a very well-established principle in this country, which is that ignorance of the law is no defence under any circumstances, and particularly, I think, under circumstances like that. But to be fair, he isn't presenting that as a defence. We're just trying to understand his character. I have to say, even though I am temperamentally averse to ridiculous excuses why people should not be deported, he does sound like he had an extraordinarily rough upbringing and is quite a damaged individual. He had a relationship with an older man when he was young in Jamaica, which he did not at the time regard as abusive, but which in hindsight I think it's being presented as having been so. He's been repeatedly violently attacked in Jamaica, the implication being because he was presenting as gay, which is culturally less acceptable than it is here. He's had scars on his body from metal bars and so on. So it is all fairly unpleasant. But I think the problem is that you have to ask, is that then to be a sort of one-way traffic whereby people who come from such horrific cultures and are programmed with such horrific notions about sex and other people's bodies and so on are allowed to come here, and then they're not allowed to be sent back because the place they've come from is
If that's the case,
horrific.
anybody, anywhere in the world with lesser LGBTQ plus rights than ours could come here, commit a crime on holiday and never leave.
Yes.
It just doesn't work mathematically,
And
does
also,
it?
I might like to point out that this guy's a rapist. Like, he may say, oh, I had this abuse from being bi. We don't
Great
know
point.
whether
We
he got
don't
the
know any
He
of
might have got
that.
those metal bar hit heads from being a rapist.
Or
back
angry
there.
brothers and dads. Who
And
knows?
it is also worth pointing out, this is a little bit of extracurricular research I did, but a Twitter correspondent, I won't name them, provided a bit of background on the judge, Molly Mulready. She is a judge specialising in immigration and asylum law and is also a traditional Irish musician. But she's a mentor with the London School of Economics Black and Minority Ethnic Mentoring Schemes. She is the proud mum of a transgender son, a lifelong Labour Party activist who has made tearful pleas that Starmer get to grips with the relentless transphobia. Basically, she's quite a hardcore activist.
Now, was it Elon Musk who sent you these messages? Well, this is it. She said that she was satisfied that he had been insensitised, not that he wouldn't do it again, but that he's now insensitised not to re-offend by the threat of return to prison. Like, that's not the moral
Like, he's
thing.
learned his... Well, it
Not that it's
specifically
wrong.
says he wasn't remorseful. So, look, he only did it once. I mean,
Yeah,
that woman's got to get on with her life. But, you know, he's learned
I
his
suppose
lesson.
if she's playing, as immigration lawyers often are very clever, playing with the
She's
the
a judge,
technical-
right,
You know,
isn't she?
she's a judge, yeah, but she's understood what the game is and she knows how to play it tactically. He has a well-founded fear of persecution. If he's sent back... I mean, I suppose the issue is the bisexuality. If he were just gay, then it would probably not even make the papers, annoyingly, though that is.
No, I think the issue is, you've just touched on it, is that if we have a rule that if you can prove hardship, you're allowed to stay, that's what needs tackling, isn't it? Unfortunately, it needs to be, no, I'm sorry, if you offend and you're not from here, you've got to go.
Change the rules, but within the rules, she's probably
She's played a blinder.
No, well, I just want to say, I think it's damning for both our societies. The fact that he's safer... What does it say say about our society that it's first of all, what does it say about Jamaica, supposedly, even if he is bi, and I'm not convinced necessarily that he is, that what it means for being bi, and we know it's a homophobic society, but what does it say that he's safer as a rapist in the UK? Like, what does that say about our treatment of rapists here? Anyway.
Very good, yeah.
Very, very frustrating, annoying. Cressida, the Mail has an exciting new police strategy for dealing with crime. It's getting someone else to do it.
Essentially, police turn to private firms amid surge in street crime. Boss of security group Mighty says talks are underway on how they can work alongside cops on shoplifting frontline. So there's loads of shoplifting. It's really fashionable. It's incentivised, and the police aren't able to keep on top of it. They didn't necessarily nip it in the bud when it wasn't so fashionable, and now it's really on trend. So the idea is that we could get more... Well, it's happening already. And by the way, this guy, of course, he's got a massive business interest. This is an advert for his company saying, hey, hire us. We're really good at stopping crime.
Yeah, slight reversal of the actual headline, which is that they want to work, whereas more like they want to work with the police.
Absolutely.
But are we seeing here, do you think, Simon, the privatisation of the justice system, the entirety of it?
I mean, I guess to some extent it's already been happening. I mean, they've been making, you know, tongue-in-cheek movies about mall cops for some years and so on, and there is an extraordinary amount of owned space in America more so than in Britain. But I remember that disquieting feeling when I first became aware of shopping malls being patrolled by security officers and thinking this is not quite right. You know, the kids are growing up here in a sort of playground environment. But, I mean, we have in our local Tesco, in Hove, which is supposed to be pretty safe.
Humble brags are just coming out for you.
Huge security barriers over the tills to protect the tobacco, I think, and alcohol, you know, and it's turned into a sort of Bronx-type vibe.
Yeah.
There's a security officer there. He's not certainly not police officer, who is terrified, frankly, any time. I mean, he's been held hostage on one occasion. It's horrific.
Wow.
So these people need proper arming. If they're going to become the alternative police, they need to be given...
Well, that's a separate matter. But the fact that it's got to this point where the police, where it's got so bad, the police haven't done anything. There's an incredible example here of a private detective firm essentially having to hunt down this shop, someone who'd broken into, I think, Marks and Spencer. Yeah, one-man crime wave, and then take that prosecution to put him into jail. For me, it's like that the whole process should have been done by the police, and they had the CCTV footage. They could have done it. I mean, I was mugged a couple of months ago now. Nothing. They had the cameras. It's right there, and nothing has happened. And so many people have similar examples of this. The police just not doing their job. I don't want to blame the Bobby on the beat or anything, or Bobbyette, but someone somewhere is failing to get these people out there and actually solving crime.
You're going to have a lot of vigilantes. I mean, another big crime at the moment that everyone's very exercised about is the phone snatching thing in central London, criminals on electric bikes. And again, these are caught on CCTV very often. I don't think it's going to be very long before somebody just comes along and jams something into the wheels or whatever. You know, there's going to be...
I'm thinking you're going to do it.
If these guys are subject to different rules than the police, because it says that they caught the guy and got him to admit the offence. But you think, well, how? What does that mean? I don't know if they play by different rules.
OK, well, moving on.
Do you think there might have been a little bit of a, what do they call it, extraordinary rendition?
Well, I don't know. I don't know.
OK, well, moving on to the Independent, Simon.
Yes.
Who don't know where asylum seekers are moving on to.
Yeah, this is a scheme which sounds reasonable enough to me, which they've attempted to use in order to tag asylum. It says GPS tagging of asylum seekers is ineffective, the government report finds. Essentially, the Home Office pilot, by which it means trial scheme, in the last couple of years, they would put... it's hard to find photographic evidence, but I think to understand a sort of ankle tag similar to...
Well, this is the thing. One part of it talks about mobile phones and having to keep them up. But then a gentleman in here talks about how when he goes to a mosque, people would see his ankle because when he was praying.
Yes, so I think it's an ankle
Wasn't
tag.
it that there was half and half, and I didn't... one was neither...
Well, one was just you rock up and you just you report
and
in.
neither of them work. That's really all it tells you.
I think what they're saying is that the intrusive one, so the protesters complain it's intrusive to have an ankle tag, works no better than just having your mobile phone, so it's going to be abandoned. But part of it, I think, is that a lot of them were put on to Albanian refugees, so-called, and they had a sort of network of people who explained how you get rid of them and what you do afterwards.
Sure. I would imagine that it seems like here that it was just badly implemented. Not, you know, if you are actually putting these tags on and they are being checked and people are calling you up every day and seeing that it's you and there's no way that that's not going to have an impact, as opposed to people just disappearing as they've done.
I think it would be quite easy to do what they do with dogs and inject a chip into the back of the neck.
Okie dokie, you're going full Lewis Schaefer.
That would solve a lot of these problems about being seen at the mosque. My friends ask me why I can't stay over with them. I can't go anywhere without informing probation first, so you can go. But that would solve the problem.
And also, he can't swim. He says he can't swim.
I felt so sorry for him. I used to enjoy swimming as well.
Oh, no, he can't swim. All right, then. So, still to come, why might Owen Jones be going to court and why is asking someone's name offensive? This is Headliners, only on GB News.
Good evening. Here's your latest GB News weather forecast coming to you from the Met Office. It's quite a mild picture at the moment for many of us, and there is some rain around, but across the far south it's a bit colder with a touch of frost overnight because of how close we are to this high pressure to the southeast of us. And actually, as the front that's brought quite a bit of rain across northern areas today bashes against that high pressure, we're going to see the rain easing. Nonetheless, we are going to have some fairly cloudy, damp weather across central parts of the UK, particularly northern and central England and into Wales. A bit of drizzly rain likely here. Like I said, though, in the far south, clearer skies leading to temperatures dropping, a touch of frost, even some freezing fog patches to watch out for first thing tomorrow morning. So yes, it is going to be a cold start for some of us, especially in the south. Any freezing fog patches should clear relatively quickly as we go through the morning, but some of them could linger for a little while. A damper picture first thing across more central areas, but across Northern Ireland and Scotland, after a largely dry night, just a few coastal showers around, it should be a largely fine start to the day. There will be quite a bit of cloud around, but across eastern parts to the lee of high ground, with the winds coming in from the west-southwest, there should be some breaks, and those breaks are going to continue through the day tomorrow. So some sunshine for eastern parts in particular, but across more central areas of the UK staying cloudy, that front gradually making its way southwards, and more drizzly rain to come as well. The best chance of any sunshine will be towards the south-southwest of England. Even here, though, the cloud building through the afternoon. Temperatures a little bit on the mild side, generally getting into double figures for most of us. As we look ahead to Wednesday, and it's a largely dry day for many of us, a front tries to bring some wetter, windier weather to the far northwest of the UK, but doesn't bring a huge amount. Otherwise, we're going to see increasing amounts of sunshine from the northwest, but generally staying cloudy towards the southeast, and quite a bit more cloud to come as we go through the end of the week, though looking largely dry. Bye-bye.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Thank you, Britain.
Thank you for watching.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks for subscribing.
Thank you for your support.
It's you that make us the People's Channel.
As we reflect on our journey so far, we're filled with immense gratitude.
You mean the world to us. We couldn't have reached this point without you.
As a very special thank you, we are giving you the chance to win one of 50 GB News thank you boxes. They're worth £50 each.
For full terms and conditions, and to enter, just go to gbnews.com/thank you.
Welcome back to Headliners. We're going to do a very quick papers roundup. Daily Telegraph. PM throws Reeves' future into doubt. The Independent, Israel and Gaza on brink of peace. The Guardian, Starmer backs Reeves and warns of ruthless public spending cuts. The Times, Labour law threatens customers' free speech. And the Daily Star, should we be popping out for another lettuce? Right, election news in the Mail, Cressida, and a chance to see if Reform really does have a chance of getting in power.
Reform support surge in Scotland sees membership surpass Tories, sending shockwave through parties ahead of Holyrood elections next year. So they're doing really well in Scotland, which is kind of what you'd expect, because Scotland is traditionally full of Labour supporters, and it's not surprising that Reform are making waves out. That's what they keep saying they're trying to do. And they're now bigger than the Tories in Scotland.
It's incredible. 7,000 members. That's like 50% of Scottish people, isn't it?
I mean, that is the thing, isn't it? Getting it into proportion. I don't know how exercised and how prone to joining political parties other than the SNP, obviously, which was a big rallying cry when it was popular, and which has just faded away to the extent that even Sturgeon's marriage now has collapsed under the weight. But very, very sad.
Yes.
And everyone is wondering whether there's another woman involved. But seriously, I think the Scottish politics. It's too tempting, isn't it, to think you know what you're talking about this far away, and I only go there once a year for the festival. But I suspect there's a kind of social conservatism there that's not been serviced very well by either of the main parties in the last few years.
Yeah, well, the three main parties, SNP, Labour and the Tories. So it'll be interesting to see, but I guess, local elections have been kind of postponed, and that's reform sort of chomping at the bit to get a chance to see, hey, are we really in with the chance? This could be the first opportunity to find out whether there's actually some meat to it.
But the irony is, if there is irony, that Scotland was pretty pro-EU. They certainly voted to remain, and that was used as a major, plank for the SNP campaign afterwards. And Reform, if they have anything, is that history of being essentially a Brexit party. I'm not saying that any party is suggesting we rejoin at this point, but sentimentally, it's extraordinary if they can turn Scotland around on that.
If people are that disillusioned with their other options, then that might.
Well, that's it. Yeah.
Scotland's economy depends a lot more on people. I mean, they benefited essentially from the freedom of movement because a lot of their brightest and best, frankly, moved south, and they needed other people to come in from more economically deprived areas into Scotland. That was,
You're talking about comics every August.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as I say, if they've overcome that objection, then that is fairly extraordinary.
We'll see what happens. Right, Simon is The Guardian with the first possible Vance-Trump split of many, maybe?
Yes, this is interesting. I mean, The Guardian, this is the reverse of their treatment of the Starmer-Reeves split. But Vance says Capitol rioters guilty of violence should not be pardoned.
Oh, no, it's the other way around, I think, isn't it? Oh, it should not be.
No, the ones that were...
says any Capitol rioters...
Oh, should not be pardoned. Yeah, sorry, I apologise.
Yeah, guilty
not very good at this hosting thing. Sorry, Simon.
It's all right, you'll get the hang of it. Okay. The key is that the general drift of Trump's rhetoric has been that as soon as he's in, all the
they're all going to get out.
Pirate, they'll be released like all the souls out of hell. But but Vance is drawing a distinction between those who were sort of just tourists wandering around taking home an ashtray as a souvenir and those who actually inflicted. But even now, there is a lot of dispute over exactly how much violence was committed by any of the rioters or protesters. It's interesting the way they always present it. For instance, in The Guardian here, there were 5 deaths associated with the riot or the incitement, whatever you want to call it. And when you look into it in any depth, there was the police shot one of the rioters, an unarmed woman. Somebody had a drug overdose that day and died on site. And then there were 3 police officers who died of natural causes within a fairly short time afterwards. One was a chap who had initially been thought to be suffering from an impact, but that was actually...
It definitely says here, including officer suicides. There's definitely been like an adverse mental reaction to what happened.
Well, that carried on over some time, and to some extent, suicides are, notoriously hard to say exactly what caused a suicide, but yes, within a fair...
I think it's fair to say there was violence that did occur, and people have admitted that they were violent.
Well, and that's not what Vance is... He's not trying to sort that out in this conversation. He's just quite sort of catch-all saying... And those... It's like we were saying about the riots here, we don't want people being violent, but that doesn't mean there weren't some people there that you might have agreed with some of their points. He's kind of doing that, isn't he? It reminds me of when Biden got in and he was starting to have this kind of calm the waters, chill out, guys rhetoric. It's a bit like that. It's sort of...
I wonder if there's a good cop, bad cop thing, because I imagine Trump doesn't like anybody sort of dissenting from him, but I wonder if Trump will say something and then Vance can come and go, well, actually, let's temper it, and that might be a nice way of their relationship working, actually.
Yeah, it could work. Trump obviously has had more bruising encounters with the American court system than Vance himself, so that's part of his thinking, I think.
Maybe, yeah. Well, getting into it with Tuesday's Telegraph, Cresta, and where do I send the money to contribute?
BBC editor may sue Owen Jones over Israel bias claim. So Owen Jones has been attacking Rafi Berg of failing to uphold, or accusing Rafi Berg of failing to uphold impartiality and coverage.
Owen Jones is attacking a Jew?
I feel like this might be your story. Well, he wrote a piece with the headline, "The BBC's Civil War on Gaza." So it wasn't very subtle. And he's accusing the BBC, and specifically Rafi Berg, of being extremely impartial.
Straight, yes.
And
I'm all about attacking the BBC for not being impartial.
Well, you are. You two, you should get together.
I know, we should do... Oh, and let's start a podcast. Hey, buddy. I mean, the funny thing here is like, to the mind of the Palestinian cause, which... truth is, let's say, a mirage, then it's like, if anybody actually says the facts, then they must be a propagandist. That's it, like, i.e. a genocide is not happening.
They're accused of problematic editing, reframing stories in favour of Israel's narratives, causing a ripple effect across the corporation.
I.e. a genocide is not happening. It's like facts. But it's really... What astounds me is there's a Tamara Aboud, who is a former Channel 4 news commissioner, and she's behind this petition that's been signed by 8,000 people calling for this person's dismissal and saying that scratch the BBC, it's packed to the rafters with Zionists. And it's that level of rhetoric. You know, this was someone who used to basically run Channel 4 News. It's incredible. And then you've got Owen Jones still working at The Guardian. Anyway, but this poor guy, death threats and whatever, all unleashed upon him.
Yeah.
Owen Jones is having a shocker lately, isn't he? He's had a very bad war with the grooming gangs. As well.
Yes, there's a little bit of a clip came out where he's tried to backtrack from it.
Yeah.
No, Owen, we're not going to let you. Cressida, I might be...
of course, twink death.
Twink death?
Twink death. He's been going through twink death.
What is... Oh, I see. He's not... Is this
this
a phrase?
is a widely held...
position in the...
Yeah.
Well, very good. OK, someone lives in Hove. Cressida, I might be more cynical about this pronouncement by Liz Truss if it wasn't published in The Guardian.
Liz Truss says UK will fail unless British media outlets are fixed. She wants to fix the British media. So she's been on Voice of America saying that Musk is right and she approves of his attitude and the things he's saying about Britain, and that all our institutions, media institutions, don't cover...
Apart from GB News.
No, it doesn't get mentioned in here, but we should be mentioned.
We're the good guys.
Well, it's The Guardian, isn't it? She says whether it's the grooming gangs that they failed... they haven't talked about they failed to hold bureaucrats and police officers to account on, whether it's the debt crisis and so on. And she lists all these things, and I think that's why we're here.
Yes. It's hard to tell exactly what her issue is, but I think if I have understood it correctly, I agree with her, which is that the media generally try and boil everything down to a personality clash. They try to find somebody who has not followed through on something they said they would do. Looking at structural issues, looking at the deeper systemic problems is something that I think all media companies, whether it's broadcasting or print or whatever, they struggle, and they know that it's because their viewers get bored as well and their eyes glaze over, and it's a real issue because we've...
Sorry, I'm just being told to move on.
I know.
From it. But you're right, and she was right about productivity. She was right about some stuff, maybe not, and how we actually solve it, the immediacy.
She crashed the economy. Reeves has crashed the economy at least as badly.
Well, but it is incredible working on this show for the last 3 years to see how narratives are formed and how something gets pushed by certain newspapers and then it doesn't really take hold and then it comes back.
I'll tell you a very good example. I come back to this all the time. The early days of lockdown, and the press did not know how to attack the government on it. They did not know whether they were locking down too hard or not hard enough, and they were absolutely at a loss until Dominic Cummings drove to Durham and then to Barnard Castle, and they knew they had their villain. They knew they had their pantomime story, and that became the story for the next month. It was absurd. Absolutely absurd. Yes, he may or may not have broken the rules, but it should not have bothered people nearly as much as what was actually happening.
And you know what they don't talk about is how amazing that castle is and how it was totally worth it. The Telegraph has the next stupid thing that might upset people. Simon, I think you got this one, don't you?
Yes, absolutely. The Telegraph say that asking people for their Christian name could be offensive, says a council. This is Sutton Council in South London.
Sorry, I should have called you Mr. Evans when I came to you.
Yes, I was living there until quite recently.
Yes, absolutely. That's what I was thinking of you. I mean, I don't know, Josh, you're a good example. Do you like being asked for your Christian name?
Well, yeah, I prefer it to being asked for my forename. I always get confused with that.
Forename. What is the given name? That's the more common thing, is it now? I don't know.
Yeah, but the idea that this is some booklet they produce, right? And it's so typical. But what annoys me most about the story is when they go, no, it's guidance, not policy. Well, then why are you doing it?
Yes.
Why are you doing it if it's not policy, if you're not putting a book out saying this is how you should address people or not?
It's very outdated, isn't it? This feels... I mean, I haven't heard anybody say Christian name for ages. I always read surname now.
Yeah. I can't remember ever asking anyone out loud. I mean, it is a thing you just see on forms, isn't it? And it probably usually does go Christian stroke Force.
Also, by the way, surname seems like a very sort of misogynist. Shouldn't it be Mrs. name? Still to come, who has a low sperm count and who is lying that women get tired? This is Headliners, only on GB News.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you're looking for some winter sunshine across the Mediterranean at the moment, then western areas are your best bet. High pressure here is bringing relatively fine conditions across Iberia into parts of France as well. But we have the remnants of Storm Felix still lingering around for parts of Italy, Greece and Turkey. This is bringing some heavy showers, which could fall even as snow across inland areas. Generally, though, the showers are expected to ease as we head through the forthcoming week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
With the dawn of the new year come new opportunities for the stage. Stefan Kyriazis joins us now to share how he started 2025.
We've got Sigourney Weaver, Hollywood star, coming in as Prospero in The Tempest. It's an experience. Sigourney Weaver has got this kind of patrician presence. She's always on stage, sat watching or stalking the area, but she doesn't quite get the Shakespearean rhythms for me. We've got more trauma for you, and we've got a little clip to run first. Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. I don't know how people's Christmases were with their families, but this is a very unhappy family, so you can feel good about your family, whatever they're like. This is Tennessee Williams' deeply unhappy story of a family in sort of plantation south. The patriarch, Big Daddy, is dying, although he doesn't know it yet. Everyone is manoeuvring around him. Everyone is pretty unpleasant, pretty unhappy. It's all based on nobody really telling the truth. Everyone's suppressing things.
Got one more thing for us?
We do, and suddenly sunshine, life, joy. It's Nutcracker, but in Havana. Which is from Carlos Acosta. It's a very Cuban feel. And again, we've got a lovely little clip to cheer us all up.
Good.
That. There was no Christmas when he was growing up. Castro had banned it all. So we've got this setting in Cuba, and instead of magicians, you've got the uncle coming back from Miami, loads of presents. It's just full of joy, and you've got a reworked music. I love the Tchaikovsky score to death, but this one has been added, so you've got kind of Caribbean flutes and lutes and guitars. Huge exuberance, colourful, bright.
GB News, the People's Channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Will, please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons,
Very, very curious.
we bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. Cresta, the Mail has a story about someone with a lot of balls.
Nice
Trans basketball star says she's at a major disadvantage playing against biological women. And you're wrong about her balls because she didn't go through a male puberty.
She still has balls, though, maybe.
Well, it doesn't say, but if she does, she doesn't have loads. Anyway.
So I don't have Simon Evan balls.
Indeed. And so I don't really know what she thinks her major advantage is. She says it several times in the article, but she never says what it is.
What is her... She says she's got a major biological disadvantage. What's the disadvantage?
It really is very... It's information light, this article, because they're saying that she began transitioning in kindergarten or first grade, as if medically transitioning. The implication is she's been castrated.
That's the... Yeah,
because
chemically...
she's saying she has not gone through any puberty. She's saying she's neither had male puberty...
Well, she says female, but I don't...
But gone through female puberty, but she is a biological male.
Yes.
There's no question about that. And yet you're denied access to the important information.
Yeah, exactly. And I will say two things. First of all, it looks like, looking at her, she's got quite big arms. I think a bit of testosterone has slipped through. And yeah, and the other thing is, of course, that she's sort of breaking all these different...
bones.
Women's bones and stuff like that. 5 women's basketball records. That would make me slightly suspicious to physical advantage.
But they have taken the lead now, so the team that she plays on is refusing to enter competitions because they feel that it makes trans people feel unsafe.
Yes.
Well, that's a whole new angle.
Rather than have biological females refuse to play her, she's refusing to play biological females because they make her feel...
Oh, my gosh, right. Starting, we got Tuesday's Daily Star, Simon, and quite a personal story for you.
Yes, indeed. Low sperm donations as births from donors triple. So there is this feels like very much an infotainment advertorial article, which is probably not unusual in the Daily Star. It's an advertisement essentially for something called Krios, which is where you can go and get sperm donations. But they're running short, and consequently they've raised the price you can get for your sperm donation by £10.
That's why I got this new tie.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the sort of little treat you can afford on the way out. Should be next door to TK Maxx. Anyway, as you say, Josh, it is personal to me being donor conceived, but also I actually attempted to be a sperm donor years before I found out that I myself, it's really in the DNA that you want to give DNA.
Pass it on there.
Yeah, I was denied the opportunity. I had poor motility.
Let's speak to your daughter Cresta about this.
Yeah.
I can't believe that 1 in 170 births are using this.
Only
that's
that
massive.
Few? Really? I think that's quite...
One in
170, yeah. And it's... but it is interesting how the donations have gone down so much. It used to be...
I thought is interesting is 1 in 6 IVF births, because obviously IVF is a treatment that enables women whose fertility issues.
Yeah.
But obviously then you're finding the men, you kind of go, let's have the whole thing done by,
Yeah, no, it's crazy. Well, anyway, very quickly, Cressida, we're going to do this ultra-processed food story with the Mail.
Processed food blamed for alarming change in children's faces. Pretty much. Well, no, actually, the opposite of that. They're not chewing crunchy...
Can't see their faces because they've got so many burgers in front of them.
There's that. Too many... No, they're not developing their jaw muscles because they're not chewing anything. Yes, they're just having angel delight. And...
Soft and hyper-palatable, it says.
That's right.
And we're palatable.
Yeah,
I do. It just means tasty, doesn't it? But it makes it sound somehow sort of like a scientific...
I think hyperpalatable is evil. It's where you start mixing fat and sugar and it's like this wicked spell.
Never ever use it in an intimate setting.
That's right.
I don't know, I'd like to put that on my Hinge profile or to whatever it's called online. Hyperpalatable ladies.
Yeah, I
She'll be the judge of that.
For kids who just like gummy bears all day or whatever and their jaws...
Vegetable, now the reason to eat vegetables, get your face sorted out.
Yeah, raw carrots.
OK, so the show is nearly over. Let's take another quick look at Tuesday's front pages. Daily Telegraph. PM throws Reeves' future into doubt. The Independent, Israel and Gaza on the brink of peace. Guardian, Starmer backs Reeves and warns of ruthless public spending cuts. The Times, Labour law threatens customers' free speech. And the Daily Star, should we be popping out for another lettuce? That is all we have time for. Thank you very much to my guests, Simon and Cresta. Simon, I thought you were excellent.
Thank you so much.
I think you should keep at it. Very good.
I thought you were... Yeah, you'll get there.
OK, well, keep on trying. I'm going to be back tomorrow at 11 p.m. with Kerry Marks and Lewis Schaefer. And if you're watching at 5 a.m, stay tuned for breakfast. Bye.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front.
Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good evening. Here's your latest GB News weather forecast coming to you from the Met Office. It's quite a mild picture at the moment for many of us, and there is some rain around, but across the far south it's a bit colder with a touch of frost overnight because of how close we are to this high pressure to the southeast of us. And actually, as the front that's brought quite a bit of rain across northern areas today bashes against that high pressure, we're going to see the rain easing. Nonetheless, we are going to have some fairly cloudy, damp weather across central parts of the UK, particularly northern and central England and into Wales. A bit of drizzly rain likely here. Like I said, though, in the far south, clearer skies leading to temperatures dropping, a touch of frost, even some freezing fog patches to watch out for first thing tomorrow morning. So yes, it is going to be a cold start for some of us, especially in the south. Any freezing fog patches should clear relatively quickly as we go through the morning, but some of them could linger for a little while. A damper picture first thing across more central areas, but across Northern Ireland and Scotland after a largely dry night, just a few coastal